Is there a God? This is the question that we have dared to ask today, and that we invite you to listen to the answer to what we have to say as we go into a profound reading investigation from Owl Council House. This is Aloha Nidao Living. This is Aini Living Conversations, and this is Julian Katari presenting the conversation and I was going to say conversating, and that's not a word.
It is.
Speaking to, to Sacred Blue Heron Woman, who's here with us and is going to share the produce of her investigation, of her research, with this very, very, very interesting topic, this very, very profound question. Some might get scared at that question. Some might get mad. Why would you dare ask that, right?
Right.
And I would answer, why? How can you go through life not questioning, not
Right.
asking
Exactly.
that kind of thing? That's the way you get to know God. Is, hey, I want to. You got to doubt even that, right? So, so it's this question doesn't come from a place of doubt at all. It comes from a place of profound knowing.
Right.
And as we do so for now 177 sessions, we have been researching so many topics, and so many of them are related to the sacred, to the holy, to divine, which is not just the skyward God, but it's
Right.
also our Mother Earth, and
Exactly.
what has been negated as sacred or as God and or goddess. So that's today's topic, and let's see what interesting things will come from this conversation. So welcome everyone.
So if you went back, probably within our first 50 conversations, you would hear that we addressed the same thing, and you'd be like, why are you addressing it again? Because I have expanded hugely.
Okay.
Depth, width, and height.
Mm-hmm.
It's not ascension, it's transcending the limits of what I knew before.
Wow, and it's growing in every
Direct.
dimension and aspect.
So this makes it even more important than it was back then, because back then it was extremely superficial, and now it's deeply embedded in me.
Okay.
So is there a God, and what is our relationship with this being? There is something inside each of us that cannot be separated from every event that is playing out in our world stage. There is something inside of us that is so precious, so ancient, so beautiful, and so rarely spoken about that nations have gone to war with nations, economies have been wiped out, cultures have been erased, pandemics have been unleashed, concerts and sports games put on, movies rolled out, vapes, candy, gum, and Viagra to keep us all distracted and to keep us from knowing what is within us. It is the essence of our very existence. It's human divinity. And I'm not using divinity related to religion, because most pastoral studies is a divinity degree. This is not. This word divinity is speaking from the definition of divinity, that is our ability to transcend, to go beyond. That's what transcend means, is to go beyond our perceived human limitations and to become more than the limits that have been imposed on us.
Mm-hmm.
So our ancestors were animistic, meaning that they saw this divinity, the spiritual life force or God, the galactic ordering dynamic.
What's that?
That is what God is, the galactic ordering dynamic.
Okay.
That pervades our universe in everything, every rock, every tree, every animal, insect, snake, bird, and each other. They knew that everything in life has a spirit, and that all we see in the tangible world is alive. Even rocks are alive.
Mm-hmm.
They knew that spirit breathes the aliveness into every flower and tree and fosters our connections to life's sacred mystery. They knew that God, or the galactic ordering dynamic, or Tao, is everywhere and nowhere at the same
I like that. Hmm.
Some of our ancestors, like the Mayans, knew that this power is our cosmic father, who is time, and so they became timekeepers with a myriad of calendars.
Hmm.
Some of our ancestors, like the Chinese, knew that this power is our cosmic mother, who is space, and they became the space keepers with their knowledge of the yin yang and how it comes together through the 5 elements to create matter. Some of our ancestors, other ancestors like the Incas, knew that this life force, spirit force that suffuses our world is the sun, and that our cosmic mission is to be in service to something greater than their lifetime. They knew that. My grammar kind of sucks here. They knew that if they were meant to live 100 years, then they must produce something that would last 1,000 years and then slowly fade back into nothingness. They knew that their cosmic mission was to impact eternity. So anything they created was not created for a few years, but for eternity. And this is our mission too. So within our cosmic father time, the horizontal and vertical fields, and our cosmic mother space, the ever expanding circle, a web, a net, a matrix came into being that binds us all together. The abundant, unlimited expression of their breaths divine.
Okay.
Then somebody with a desire to dominate came along and said, "Oh no, you all are wrong. This life force power that suffuses the universe is God and is not in everything." And so they created all these gods like Zeus as a representation of this life force spirit. And they said these gods resided on a mountain, and this was known as polytheism. And it still allowed, though, for people to maintain their animistic beliefs. But then sometime later after this, some other bodies came along with a stronger desire to dominate and said, "Oh no, you are all wrong. This life force power called God is not in anything at all. In fact, this is a male power, and since there is only one of him, he is jealous, vengeful, and lives somewhere way up there in space."
Hmm.
So we have been domesticated for centuries to believe that we are machines, the highest form of machinery meant to dominate everything else, and that nothing is diffused with this life force or spiritual power except this off-planet God, and that the only ones who can handle this power are priests and pastors, and they are all male. So to fill this void, science fiction was created. So we now live in a fake sci-fi illusion. And also to fill this void, the technosphere was created. And we have come to a point where we claim to be so powerful that we don't need to re-member our ancient ways. Yet the truth is that everything we know regarding the known universe and our reality is only 4%. And that leaves us 96% to explore.
Mm.
The other truth is that these cultures or peoples that we think were so primitive were so far beyond what we are capable of right now that bringing things forward from them is not going backwards at all.
Hmm.
Since then, we have always been looking for ways to measure the soul and never really seen the spirit that makes creation a whole. So science has discovered that there is this God or life force, spirit force that suffuses everything. Some have called it the absolute, some the 0 point field, some the great principle, some call it consciousness or mentalism, and the Chinese call it the Tao. Some call it the universe, others the field of plenty or the field of remembering. It is all one and the same. But the scientific definition of the word principle is that which creates, constitutes, governs, sustains, and contains. So from this point forward, I'm going to refer to this spirit, breath of life that infuses everything as the galactic ordering dynamic principle or process, or the God principle process. Process means the act of proceeding to create, constitute, govern, sustain, and contain. And so now we're going to start unpacking all of this, because as long as we regard this cosmic power as a power that is non-local and alien to us, It is very easy for a supposed privileged class to rule by divine right. Theology has been imposing the belief of an impossible creator, one who created beings capable of sinning and then allows them to be eternally punished for such sins. We've also been taught and programmed to believe that we're flawed because we have desires, feelings, and emotions. We have been programmed to believe that we are inherently greedy and will seek to serve only ourselves. And the purpose of all this has been to create fear and suppress love and democracy. Because the real interest of love and democracy is to exalt, emancipate, and recognize the divinity inherent in each of us. I want to say that again for whoever's listening. The real interest of love and the democracy is to exalt, emancipate, and recognize the divinity inherent in each of us. The goodness, the love. So one of the most common terms used for this God or love force is energy. What is energy? Science defines this life force or God energy as a vibrational force that underlies all matter and interactions in the universe. The nature of this energy or God force is that it is movement, frequency, and vibration, and everything in the universe is made up of vibrating particles or atoms that generate energy fields. So quantum physics tells us that all matter is just condensed energy or life force or God or love in different states of being. And this cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed. And so this is known as the law of conservation of energy in physics. So our bodies, our human bodies, the animal bodies, all bodies on the surface of Mother Earth are carbon and energy based, not silicone, not silica, not computer, not silica. We are carbon based. Right? Every thought we think, every emotion we feel, every word we speak, and every action we perform generates energy or aliveness that affects our personal frequency and the environment around us. When this energy or God process flows freely, we feel healthy and balanced, but if it gets blocked in our body, it creates disease. And this is the only valuable thing we have on earth, this God force, this God process, the breath of life within us. We are not held accountable for how much we buy. We're held accountable for what we bought it, for why we bought it. We are not held accountable for what we did, but why we did it. There are no secrets in this energy world. It all is transparent. Everything is known. And the truth of our motives is always known, which is why the great teachers have always said the truth will set us free. So let's start with our cosmic father, time.
Okay.
One of our ancestors, known to some as Thoth, Hermes, Trismegistus, or Quetzalcoatl, told us that time changes, but not all things change in time. Time exists as the force that holds events separate, each in a proper place, and time remains not in motion, but we move through time as our consciousness moves from one event to another. So to understand time, we have to go beyond the parochial limitations of Western science and the self-inflated progressive thinking of the Western mind in general that states that anything that advances technology is an absolute advance over anything that was thought of or occurred in the past. The Mayan timekeepers were scientists with their unique mathematics of counting by 20 and not by a decimal 10, they laid the basis of a grand science of time. Grand and vast. So while our concept of time is linear and predicates an unceasing ascent into a progressively technological and mechanistic future, time as known by the Mayans is a science predicated on the knowledge of time as the universal factor of synchronization. And let me tell you right now, two instances of this time factor, this universal God Father time of synchronization. So 2
What are
weeks. On this coming Sunday, it will be 2 weeks ago, I went to see my friend Jaime. In my truck, I took my two dogs that always like to go with me. I have 6 dogs, but these 2 dogs go everywhere.
Okay.
Right? So I have an extended cab. He has single cab. So we took my truck to go wherever we were going. We went to the river, and they're in Siloam Springs, Arkansas. And at one point we stopped at a gas station. He comes out and he puts his hand on the right front tire, the passenger side front tire of my truck, and he gets back in and says, "Ingrid, your tire's really bad. It's really bad." And I'm like, "Well, what? Show me." So I went and I felt it. He put my hand on it, and it was cauliflowered. I mean, I prayed. I prayed the whole way home. And there's a Mexican tire shop in McAllister. I went there and I got 2 new tires, or they're not brand new, but for $100. I was there for 45 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes. And for $100, I got 2 new tires just like that. If the plans for that weekend between Jaime and I was that he was coming home and we were going to go fishing. If that had happened, we would have taken his truck with my kayaks in it down to the riverfront. He would have never been in my truck. Synchronization.
Wow.
Synchronicity. Now, what just happened today in my life? Another example of synchronicity. One of our hens just had 10 chicklets. And she got him off the porch today. It was so amazing last night to know that my front porch has nurtured many, many puppies, and now it's nurturing chickies. She took them off the front porch into the food forest today, and I was in and out working in the food forest, and it made her nervous. And at one point I lost sight of her, but then she brings them back to where she had brought them over the edge of the porch, and they were way too small to get up there. And I tried to help him, but she was instantly puffed up and ready to attack me, so I backed off. Well, over the afternoon, I watched her take them around, and it was really cool to watch her teach them how to start grubbing for food, right? It's really cool. It's also really cool to watch her sit down and 10 chickies just kind of fold themselves in her feathers and they just disappear. It's like, how does that work? But so later on in the afternoon, I'm cutting meat for the dogs, and I'm playing music, and I'm having fun outside and dancing and to music, right? And cutting meat. And the goats come back, and that helps them. The music helps them go into their pen instead of be stupid like they have been lately. And then I was like, I'm always, when I start this, is always just like one more song, right? All of a sudden I hear the din of chickies. So I turn the music off and I go look, and Mama is in the goat pen with the chickies, and they're frightened because goats are walking towards them and they can get through the fence, but Mama hasn't figured out how. So I managed to get a hold of her and toss her over to the fence, and I follow her over to the porch. Now we're on the west side of my front porch, and I managed to get a hold of her, get her wings held under my arm so that she can't beat me to death with them. And I get a hold of two chickies, and I dump her and the 2 chickies on the porch. So now she's happy, right? Now she's okay. So I get a hold of a third one, toss it up there, and the other 7 are running around. So I go to the south side of the porch, and I manage to get 2 at a time, and 1 escapes me. And on the south side of the porch, there's 1 step. I go around that last chickie escapes me and goes around to the west side of that step where I have lilies planted, and it escapes into the lily leaves or whatever they're called, right?
Mhm.
I reach in there and I touch a cold body while I'm grasping a puffy body.
Okay.
It's a snake.
A snake, and oh man.
So
Okay.
I was
You get
like,
scared?
oh shit. And I tossed the chickie on the porch and I look around for a weapon. And there's probably about a 1 foot piece of wood that's a half to 1 inch in diameter. And I grab that and I start pounding the body of the snake to see where its head is. And sure enough, it was in the space between the step and the porch. It was going to go have 10 chicken nuggets for dinner.
Oh man.
Despite the fact that in my food forest there are rats rampant.
They have a taste for chicken.
Yeah. So I got it. I'm pounding on it enough that it gets it turned around to start heading east. And that's when I was like, oh, there's a metal rake here. So I picked up this really old fashioned metal rake and that's pretty heavy. And I got it pinned by its head.
Mhm.
But that's all I did. It wasn't penetrating its brain to cause its head to cause damage. And I'm like, well, I could stand here all night and hold this.
Mhm.
That's not this snake needs to die because it's got 10 chicken nuggets on its brain.
Well, yeah. That's good. You got to save the chickens. I mean,
Right. So it's not, if I had 100 chickens and there were 200 chickies running around, it would be different. But we're just starting our chicken population.
yeah. Where we
So,
went, they like there was one. We saw one chicken, and the guy there is like, there used to be five, but the fox took all four, the other four,
yeah.
and then we would hear the fox at night. And oh man.
Ducks and chickens, and they're all very easily predated,
Yeah.
whatever that word is. Anyway, so I let go of the snake to try to with the end of the rake, so I can try to beat it over the head and kill it. And it goes around the corner of the house and is heading into the elderberry thicket in a big hurry. And I'm like, fuck, I lost it, right? Right at that point in time, my dog Ginger appears out of nowhere. She
Right.
grabs the snake by the tail and drags it out and flings it. Now, this is a 4-foot snake. So
Mhm.
she managed to fling it and drop its head 3 feet south of where I was at, which is an 8-foot distance. She dropped it. So then I started trying to beat it with the rake, and it stunned it a little bit, slowed it down, but I didn't get it killed, right? So it starts heading into the elderberry thicket again in a very big hurry. So she pounces again. She's barking like crazy. The bark, I know that says, Mom, there's a snake, right? Barking like crazy, picks it up again by the tail and flings it. And this time I'm able to kill it and get it out of the food forest. And the synchronicity, how did she know? Other than Father Time, the synchronicity factor that I needed help to keep the snake from killing our first baby chickies. It just fills me with awe. The
Yeah.
synchronicity factor. If
Yeah,
she
mhm.
hadn't, if this is the same with my tires, if this hadn't happened, when you start realizing how events line up, we start
Mhm.
seeing Father Time and the synchronicity factor.
Wow, it's a cool story. So, how does this tie into the story?
Our concept of time is linear,
Mhm.
right? So the Mayans said that it's the universal factor of synchronization, time,
Okay.
synchronicity. How did she know to come running around and pounce and grab that snake? Synchronicity.
Mhm.
So we are traveling on an erroneous mechanistic time-based technology and not the natural order of time, because that is the natural order of time. What happened today is
Yeah.
absolutely the natural order of time.
Yeah, and that's what happens when you start. resonating with better information. Let's call it that.
So the Mayan ancient books of, I'll let you pronounce it.
The Popol Vuh?
No, the Chilambalam.
Chilambalam. Uh-huh.
How do you say that?
Chilambalam.
Chilambalam, with a year bearer count, and their year bearer account is equal to the Chinese year bearer, like saying this is the year of the wood snake. That's what a year bearer is.
Mm-hmm.
So the Chilambalam with a year bearer count was to establish a basis for understanding that there exists a synchronic order of time. And the harmony of the system is that every 52 years equals 73 260-day cycles, with no 2 days being the same. So the entire 18,980 days of the recycle repeats every 52 years in a moving spiral of time. That's pretty profound. Well, we're not going to investigate that tonight. That'll come later, much later.
Okay.
So belief systems are the functions of time. What we believe defines the time we are living in. So now I will introduce the German term of the Zeitgeist, or the spirit of the time, which is the belief system which really creates a spirit. So this is all based on belief systems. Any belief system is held in place by the calendar and the sense of time in which it is encoded. So at a minimum, a calendar is or should be the measure of Earth Mother in her rotation around our grandfather sun. This rotation takes 365 days. And it is the programming of the different festivals and holidays of the various calendars, along with the dating of their new year, that makes each calendar tradition distinct and also demonstrates how a calendar is a programming device. So for instance, if we were to take out the different holidays programmed into the Hebrew lunar calendar, there would really be no such thing as Judaism. You need to let that sink in.
Yeah, I'm like waiting. Okay, I want to hear more.
That's kind of where we're going to touch for right now. To just
Okay.
That'll come much later.
Okay.
This is cycle 1, the light side of our re-entry into natural life program, farming enterprises program. We're just touching on it. This will come in much later in cycle 3.
Okay.
More on this. So this can demonstrate that the cultural conditioning of a people is dependent on the programming of the calendar they use. And it also shows how a calendar is a feedback mechanism that maintains a group of people within the confines of their own self-established belief system.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, and it's typically one man only. It was our Gregorian calendar describes measurable mechanical timeframes and concepts such as a year, month, day, hour, and minute. And this comes from Pope Gregory. And he was the one that decided it takes 364 point something days for Earth to. Okay, let's let the absurdity of this sink in.
Mm-hmm.
Our ancient ancestors watched the sky.
Right.
And they knew the star configurations. They created star configurations as their clock, so they would know when grandfather sun was in his exact place. So this is the Mayans. They knew also what a year was, but bloody Pope Gregory dictated for us that a year is 364 point something days.
Mm-hmm.
And we have followed one man's dictates for how many hundreds of years? Let's add to this the Snellen chart that all optometrists use to determine what our eyesight is capable of. This was dictated by one man
Mhm.
who measured his assistant, who figured his assistant had pretty good eyesight. There's nothing scientific about that. Nothing.
No. Hmm.
And we follow it religiously, dogmatically, like there's nothing else.
And like so many things.
Oh. Okay, so this concept of a year, month, day, hour, and minute would be called chronos by the ancient Greece. Then there's kairos time, which is the God process or consciousness based time. And then there is cosmic time, which is timeless.
Hmm.
So our Mother Earth has her program, of which our human history and all our endeavors are part of. This larger meta program of Mother Earth is called the biosphere, or our environment, which contains every part of the scientific definition of the word principle. Right? It creates, constitutes, contains, sustains, governs. Right? So the biosphere is a whole system composite of the sum of life and its inorganic and organic support systems spread out over the surface of Mother Earth. So bio means life, sphere means having the form of a globe or a ball. So in a word, our biosphere is a vast, resilient process that has been evolving or changing itself on our planet Earth as she spins around grandfather sun. We humans, who only in 1969 saw ourselves as a planetary being, threw the whole Earth being back at us via television by a rocket hurtling in outer space, have been so generally self-involved and narcissistic in our own interpretation of things that we have missed seeing the larger picture of which we are a part. This larger picture is an entirety of the biosphere, which encompasses the evolving, changing of life on Earth as whole systems process. And the most amazing thing is that we're not taught in school about the biosphere, and that we are part of this whole system governed by natural order, or the God process. For a very long time, we've been living in a time apart from the rest of the biosphere, an artificial time whose climax and termination is inevitable, because nothing artificial can withstand the force of truth, absolute truth. And one of the only absolute truths in an ever-expanding universe is that there is a galactic ordering dynamic process. There just is.
Which is, you can call that God.
God, zero limit, field to field, right? So our clocks are artifacts whose system of measure has nothing to do with natural cycles, but is an abstract standard. The natural order of time governs the entirety of our personal biosphere. We humans, each of us has and every animal, every tree, every rock, because we are all products, children of Mother Earth. We all have our own biosphere, which is our aura. Right. And everything else in our ever-expanding universe. This natural order of time can be formulated very simply as time. What was Einstein's MC2? So same thing, but time
equals MC squared.
TE equals art. Time by energy equals art. Meaning energy factored by time equals art. All phenomena in our material world represent some state of energy or life force, or this God dynamic process. And every state of energy is governed by time, the resultant product of which is always something beautiful or elegant. Have you ever seen an ugly sunset, or an ugly sunrise, or an ugly tree, or an ugly flower?
Yeah. Nothing is inherently ugly.
No, because time, what was Einstein's equation?
E equals MC squared.
So art equals TE squared. That's Father Time. So all of nature is organized by time to produce in us the sensation of beauty. And time is a frequency, not measurable by a clock, but by cycles. So the natural order of time says that time is the universal frequency of synchronization. Synchronization of when my dog knew to come around the corner and dive in and grab the snake and whip it out. The only thing that can explain that is synchronization. I didn't call her. I got the best example of that tonight, this afternoon. So it is the nature of Father Time to synchronize and maintain all things in a condition of synchronization. Synchronicity is the experience of real time. So when I say that time is frequency, I can be more precise and say that time is a universal constant expressible by the mathematical ratio of 13 to 20. So 13 to 20 is a frequency of synchronization. How do we know this? We have 5 fingers on each hand equals 10, 5 fingers on each, 5 toes on each foot, which equals for a total of 20.
Mm-hmm.
We have 13 major joints in our body. So 1320 is the frequency of synchronization. If our bodies weren't synchronized, how could these 13 joints and 20 digits work in harmony?
Mm-hmm.
So living in ignorance of the life force, spirit energy, or divinity or God process that suffuses us, thinking that it's alien to us and that we have not even heard, allows us to think that we have not even heard of our cosmic father time and our cosmic mother space. So we have no clue of our father's nature or our mother's nature. So living in absence of the sacred, we then constructed our own concept of time, which is now based on the clock with its 60-minute hour and the Gregorian calendar with an array of unevenly day-numbered months. So our artificial time frequency is defined by the ratio of 12 to 60, which is a 12-month year, 60-minute hour. In contrast to the natural order, there's nothing 1260 in our bodies. Nothing.
Hmm. Okay.
Nothing. In contrast to the natural order of 1320.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we could say there are 12 cranial nerves, but there's nothing 60.
Okay, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, there's 12 cranial nerves. So because of our human adaptation to the maybe there's 13
Mm-hmm.
that they haven't discovered yet, because we're so used to the 1260 timing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So because of our human adaptation to the irregular mechanized 1260 timing frequency, we've created a technosphere that runs contrary to the natural order of our father, and it creates instability. The efforts of the technosphere are to supplant the organic processes of our biosphere with a totally industrialized one. So as a universal factor of synchronization, Father Time is instantaneous and transcends light. Another word we could use for this life force energy or God process or orgon energy, and we'll introduce that in a later session, is power. And the desire to dominate came from a fantasy of getting power from external sources. So in this day and age, we have a new age shamanism that we are so intent on seeking out to get power and become somebody.
Mm-hmm.
We do this because of the lack of sense, of love, of knowing our innate power or divinity. So for us modern peoples, the idea of shamanism is related to the idea of power. Power to rule over, power to heal, power to change the events of life, power to bring the rain, power to bring money, and so on. Yet in our ancestors' lives and still today in the indigenous, those who know they belong to Mother Earth and that they are filled with God know that shamanism is related to the idea of service rather than the ideal of power.
Okay. Yeah.
What makes shamans extraordinary is not how big their power is, but how extreme their vocation to serve others is without asking for rewards.
Mm. I want to highlight that. I like that a lot.
Yes. Absolutely. They offer an entire life of service to reflect the God process or Tao without a trace of self-importance on what they do. So the goal of a shaman or priest or pastor experience is to bring their participants to the lost unity. And a shaman could also be called a psychologist or psychiatrist, to bring their participants to the lost unity with the unspeakable force, this God process, the galactic ordering dynamic that moves everything in the universe. But most of them believe that spirit and matter are separate and must be reunited, and it needs special people to do so. In an incarnational worldview, we can now know that we've never been lost or separate, and we can always experience the unity of our double nature, which is matter united with spirit or the God process. And the importance of this incarnational view shows that in the fact that we've been on a continual process of self-destruction without it. So the major disease of our time is the lack of knowing our oneness with God and each other, our lack of knowing our human divinity. And only by remembering this can we reach what constitutes our natural rights: power, well-being, and freedom. The unity principle. The creators, the God process's original idea was abundant life, unity, equality for all, for eternity, right? So the unity principle is that our Mother Earth's biosphere, our planet, and the layers of her, or our atmosphere, is a unitive complex of cycles summarized as a single continuously transforming and slowly mutating biogeochemical process. It's not all of us wearing the same color of clothes on the same day every day. I think that's why most people fight against unity so hard. They feel like they
misunderstand it completely. That's would be homogeneity.
Yes.
Monotony, that would be it.
Monotony, especially.
Yeah, monotony.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Homogeneous monotony. So in this single complex cyclical process, all of life, all of matter is a unity, a singular dynamic by which the biosphere can be considered as a living whole. The unity of the whole of the living matter of the biosphere is the sum of all its living organisms. So every single one of us has a special place in this unity. And we are each individually a unity. That is part of this larger than life unity. So those living organisms, either directly or indirectly, are continuously processing solar and cosmic radiation and transforming it into various chemical cycles that establish the atmosphere, most notably through photosynthesis and the oxygen and carbon dioxide cycles. And we're trying so desperately to become carbon neutral.
And we are carbon. It's like, we want to eliminate the carbon.
So we want to eliminate ourselves.
Yeah, that's what they mean.
Exactly. So that's where we'll stop tonight. Next week, we're going to go into a creation story of love.
A creation story of love. I love that.
And then we're going to investigate space, Mother Space.
Okay.
Which is so huge. As it comes from Jacobo Ginsberg, but he's the only one that defines space. So
so very exciting coming conversations.
We have Jose Arguelles, who described for us the law of time and time as a synchronization factor. And then we have Jacobo Ginsberg, both of them. One, Jacobo Ginsberg was German, born in Mexico. Jose Arguelles is of Mexican descent, born in Minnesota, I believe he was.
Okay.
Interesting that Father Time and Mother Space come from Mexico.
Yeah, Jacob is very, very respected and talked about in Mexican society, or at least apparently, like on social media and stuff.
So
But he is renowned, and Jose Reyes he never really stuck to Latin Americans. To many of them. I mean, he was. I mean, and also Jacobo Grimmer attracts like a more serious audience, right? And then Jose Reyes, well, he has his audience. He keeps his followers, I guess, a few of them. I don't know.
yeah, he does. There's a
They were
website.
very strong many years ago. Very, very strong. And with time, I guess they've been kind of maybe switching to the other count, hopefully.
Well,
Mhm.
I read a book on a Mayan calendar by a woman who apparently started with Jose Arguelles and was totally devastated when she realized he wasn't real, and she went to Guatemala to study with the real Mayan
Yeah.
calendar.
Yeah, and you don't need to be devastated. You can totally match what he teaches, and then just take what's good, right?
Well,
And
she did.
then
Yeah,
just
she
be
did
happy
that.
with.
She did that in her writings, but I mean, she wasn't totally devastated, but she was like, oh my God, I just discovered that this was kind of a fictitious, and
Yeah,
it's fictitious in the fact that he started an entire new count in 1987 instead of fusing his theorizations about the law of time with the Mayan, the
yeah,
ancient
and
Mayan
he is
time.
very not liked by the Maya, of course.
Well, yeah, because he just imposed. He just
And then that makes me suspicious about if was this another kind of, because it would be very convenient to catch all the people that would be open to that and take them into, because we've analyzed this, because he calls it the dream spell. So he's like
right.
he's casting a spell. It's a spell.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
it's as far as getting you out of a way worse spell, which is the Gregorian calendar. That's good enough. That's quite good already. But then maybe I think sometimes, I just think, I don't make a conclusion, but I think sometimes he was some type of agent for some type of operation. Let's get all the people who would awaken from the calendar into another thing, so keep them away, or keep them polarized, because that has been very effective. Because till this day, there's that polarization. Some people are very, very kind of bought by that count, even if you present them with evidences of another count and so on. They react aggressively to that. It's very fanatically, right?
Yeah.
So,
no,
it's worked. It's helped keep people, so the potential Mayan calendar students divided.
Yes, absolutely.
But then what you're doing here, that's exactly what needs to happen, which is, don't be polarized. He opened the door. Take the things that are good, that he taught and are good, and then join them with this other thing, which is also good, and let's all get together.
For one thing, the biggest factor, as I've expressed to you in voice text, is that he bases a lot of his work on this Russian Vernadsky, who I really wanted to investigate, because he did something with DNA also, and I need to understand. But Vernadsky described this mental sphere of the of our Mother Earth, of Tierra Madre, Pachamama, as the noosphere. And Jose Arguelles has decided that this noosphere resides inside the Kuiper radiation belts.
Okay.
And there's apparently a place in Arizona who's dedicated to Vernadsky's teachings. The only book I found was written in German, and I started to translate it into English back in 2020, and I kind of lost steam on that because it's difficult. I eventually will, I'm pretty sure. But so he proposes, along with Vernadsky, that the biosphere of Mother Earth is replaced by this technosphere, and that can't be. That absolutely cannot be, because you're disregarding the unity principle. And the unity principle I just presented came from him. So he's disregarding his whole self by saying this. He caused himself cognitive dissonance by this. You have this unity principle, which others have demonstrated, that Gaia, Pachamama, biosphere, and all is one entire living being. But he and Vernadsky proposed that, and Vernadsky died before the technosphere got developed, but that this would supplant the biosphere, and that's absolute bullshit. And that the biosphere, then their proposition is that the biosphere will transform into the noosphere, and it's like, well, maybe the noosphere, the mental envelope, is a plane, because we have mental bodies. Absolutely. There's a mental plane, a mental sphere of Mother Earth. Maybe it resides in the radiation belts of the Van Kuiper belts. We have no fucking clue, because we don't know where our mental body lies, really. So I think that's the point where he gets unreal. Untruthful.
Right. Yeah. So that's great that we think about it so much, and that we question it, and that we review it, and that we find what is helpful and useful for.
The bottom line is, we have to understand that Mother Earth was around a long time before we were, and she will be around a long time after we are. And there is nothing that can alter her biosphere irrevocably. Nothing.
Yep. Yep. So, okay. Oh, wow.
So our only job is to fall into harmony with her biosphere. And the God process, the galactic ordering dynamic.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to continue with the creation love story next week. Yes. And this has been a long and beautiful conversation, so we're going to probably stop now, right?
Yeah.
And invite people next week, and please share and find your ways to support this if you liked it. And remember that a shaman is somebody that is here to serve, not to take advantage. So that's something that is helpful to have people join this, because we got to serve others. That's what we got to start doing. I like that bottom line. We got to start serving others. Okay. So that's the invitation. And with that, we'll see you next week.
Before you end.
Okay.
The Incas knew that we are here to be in love, or to experience love, to give love, to receive love, and to be in love, and to be of service that impacted eternity.
Wow.
And that's what our Owl Council House training program is all about.
Okay. And that's what it's all about. You heard it, folks. That's what we're here to do. If you're wondering what are you guys selling, well, no, this is what we're doing, and you're welcome to join us anytime you want to step beyond the buying and the selling, and you want to really do something in this world.
Yeah.
So with that, we'll see each other next week. Blessings for all, and goodbye.